Yeah, that's like the biggest expense that you have. Like I set out to never pay rent. I never paid rent even before I knew this method. I knew I never wanted to pay rent.
What's up, y'all? I'm back with my wife, it's Derek and Lex. We're gonna talk about what real estate allowed us to do, allowed us to experience in life. So I'll let you start it, cause
Yeah, specifically, we do buy and hold real estate. So we're landlords. So we have houses that we rent out to people who are looking for housing. So one of the things that it has allowed us to do is get back our time. And that's what freedom is about. Like when I particularly think about freedom, I think about freedom to do the things that we desire to do. Freedom to spend time with the people that we love, to spend time with the people that we love, freedom to spend time with your children or take care of your children and not necessarily have to have them go to daycare unless you want to and that's part of your plan, but you're not forced to do that because you have that freedom to make that decision. The freedom to travel, like the ability to do those things, like that's some of the greatest experiences that I've had that I wouldn't have had if we didn't go on this journey to seeing like what this business was about.
yeah, it's been a great journey. It allowed us to quit our jobs. We used to work at a car plant, and we both hated the car plant every day. Waking up, even on the weekends, even on vacation, I was just thinking about how I got to go back to work and how I got to go back to that place. And then in the mornings, like getting there was so hard. I felt like it was like a tank on my back, and I was just like trying to get there. I gotta get there. I gotta get there by 6:48, and then if I don't get there by this time, then I'm gonna get
Written up.
written up, or I'm gonna get in trouble, and this is gonna happen, and I gotta pay my rent. When there was a way for me to buy real estate, live in one side, and not have to worry about rent ever
Oh
again.
yeah. Yeah. That's like the biggest expense that you have. Like I set out to never pay rent. I never paid rent. Even before I knew this method, I knew I never wanted to pay rent to somebody. That just was a decision that I made. But then when we found out about this method, that was a whole game changer because my idea was to pay a mortgage. I was like, I want to get a house. I'm going to pay the mortgage, but at least it's going towards something that I own. Well, this is a game changer to have somebody else pay the mortgage. And even if you don't do the house hacking way, you're still gonna have somebody else paying your expenses because the passive income that you're able to get from a business like this is gonna be paying for each and every bill in your life, depending on how many you get, depending on the kind of deals that you are able to get, and that you learn how to get. So yeah, just the basically it allowed us to be happy. Happiness and freedom, I mean, to me it's like synonymous. Like you need freedom, I feel like, to be happy. Like the thing is, when you have something in your life and you having a certain experience in your life and it's common to you, it can be something that you kind of overlook and you kind of not take for granted, but it just becomes every day to you. You're like, okay, yeah, I don't have a job, I don't do this, I have this, and then it becomes normal to you. It's just like somebody, like if you work a job, say you're somebody and you make a certain amount of money in a job. Like a lot of people, their goal is to make what they say six figures. Like I don't know, $100,000 in a job. If you're somebody that makes that, you might look at that like, oh yeah, I mean it's not so special. But you might have been a person that looked at that before and been like, oh man, that's my goal. And then when you get there, it's kind of like so. We have to take a step back to really look at all the things that it has done. But the fact is that when we look around, we're like, wow, we're really able to do this, do that, and that. We came back. We just took a trip, just an out of the state trip. We came back maybe like a week ago. But before that, we were in the continent of Africa, or on the continent of Africa, for 3 whole months. This was one of our
I
dream
still
trips.
can't believe we did that.
I
I
know, and
still can't
this
believe.
this is one of our dream trips, but it wasn't even our dream trip to spend 3 months. That wasn't our dream trip because, to be honest, sometimes your mind is limited on how far you can dream when it's very unlikely. So we just wanted to go to the continent of Africa just in general. But working at a regular job, the standard job that gives you those 1 week of vacation time, it's not even one full week like 7 days, it's 40 hours. And so with 40 hours of vacation time, if you're coming from the America, that whole flight can take almost 1 day. It can take almost 1 day. So that means you got to fly there and fly back. That's already 2 whole days. And then if you saved all your vacation, now you have 3 days left, if you even have that. So you have 3 days. You're going across the world, and you'll be able to spend 3 days
God forbid you don't need sick time, because sometimes they mix that
Exactly.
together
Oh
and
yeah,
that.
they did. That's what they did.
Yeah.
We didn't have separate, like, some jobs they do have more vacation. So if you're a person, to me, when I worked at a job, 2 weeks sounded like it definitely didn't sound like enough. But there's some people who they worked there for 10 years and they was able to incur almost 2 weeks of vacation, which is still crazy because it's 52 weeks in the year. And I'm to only get 2 weeks off to enjoy my life. So we always wanted to take that trip to the continent, but it just wasn't possible working at that job because even if we spent our entire vacation for the trip, we only get to stay there for 3 days. We only get to stay there for 3 days, and it's like, okay, something is better than nothing. But what happens if our flight gets delayed? We'll end up getting written up because we came back late and we don't have no vacation time. So it's just something that we didn't even imagine going for 3 months because it's something that we couldn't even imagine. We just wanted to get over there. The fact that we spent 3 months, our real estate paid for it while we were there passively, while we slept, while we went out to eat, while we discovered things, while we went to the parks. It just paid for what we were doing. And to stay there for 3 months, and guess what? One of the reasons that we stayed there, one of the reasons we went there and we stayed there for so long, for one, we wanted to escape the weather that we were coming from. We were coming from cold weather, and it's very tropical. It's a very tropical climate where we went, specifically in the country of Kenya. We wanted to be able to escape the weather, but a big thing is we were looking for a potential country that we want to move to. We're part of some groups that is talking about moving to different continents, specifically the continent of Africa. One of the biggest things that I see in a group when people ask the question, people who desire to move to another country, their biggest thing is figuring out the finances. I see so many people like, are there jobs here? Are there jobs here? I'm a CNA. Can I work in this field? I'm a therapist. Can I do this? How did you finance this? And I want to go there in 5 years, but I'm just coming up with a plan. That's one of people's biggest obstacles for moving to another country. We literally could have stayed there and lived there if we wanted to. And that blew like my mind. 'Cause I'm like, yo, we can literally just pick up and leave and move to a whole nother country and thrive off of the money that we've gotten. And
100%.
yeah, and then this is the thing. People think that you have to have a lot of money in real estate. They think that you have to have a lot of money to get started, and they think that you have to have a whole bunch of properties to like do anything. But guess what? Just off of this thing that we're talking about, and I'm talking about right now, is like living in. If you have the desire to just relocate to another country, because things getting a little crazy, like where you staying at. The fact is that off of our first rental house, it was a duplex because it was a multi-family house. We would have been able to move off of the first rental that we had because of the deals that we were able to get. This is something that we talk about in the program that we have, but because of the deals that we get, the way that we format the amount that we spend versus the income that we will make, we would have been able, off of this first property, to be able to move to an entirely different country and sustain life with extra money. So you don't need a whole bunch of properties for it to be able to change your life. That first property changed your life because if you do it right, it'll eliminate your biggest expense. The most people's biggest expense is their living expense, and it can eliminate that just with your first property if you get the right property.
100%. And everybody needs somewhere to live, so this business is always going to thrive. There's always going to be somebody looking to rent somewhere. And one thing that we always experience is when we are listing our property, we always get multiple inquiries. Like, to the point where I just want to turn the phone off. Like, it's too much going on. There's too many people coming in. But that's how much in demand this business is. This is the biggest business that you can that is around, that for people that need somewhere to live. Like, this is always in demand.
Yeah.
Always has been, always will be. AI, whatever's going on, it will never stop people needing somewhere to live.
So yeah, so like when we look at how it changed our lives, like it's just so much different than what when we first met each other. We met each other at the jobs, and we weren't married at that time, but I knew when we met each other, I was like, man, we can't be working at a job like this being married, because we worked on opposite shifts. And it was based off of seniority. So for example, he had more seniority than me, so he could get on the what they call the idea shift. I was on the opposite shift. We didn't have any control over that. It was all based off over our seniority. We didn't have any control, so they could have like put me around. I literally had one of the most lowest seniorities in the plant, so basically I could have got put on any shift at any time. And that's not a way like to live that I want to live my life for somebody else like moving me like a chess piece. Like, oh well, you got bumped to this, so now you on this shift. Now you working 3 to 11. Now you working. We can't really have a life like that, and we barely got a chance to see each other. And just like he said, talking about, I think maybe he talked about on another video, but the fact that we used to get mandated, y'all. So we don't know if this is a job like y'all have, but we literally, you couldn't even plan your weekends because sometimes you would just, they could mandate you as, I don't remember, it was at least up to a day before. You could literally have plans, like we would have plans for the weekend, for Saturday, and they just be like, no, we need you to come into work. And it's like, what? I had a whole day planned, and then you don't get another. You get Sunday off, just one day, and then after that, you don't get another day off until a whole entire week. You know what I'm saying? Like we just like.
And that's if you don't get mandated the next Saturday, because they can mandate you 2 Saturdays in a row.
Yep.
And then you
3 Saturdays a month,
it's actually
right?
3.
No, but we had to work. It was.
I thought you had to work 2, and then you could get 1 off.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But then sometimes they would cancel one of those Saturdays, so then you couldn't work your 2 consecutive Saturdays on to get 1 guaranteed off.
It was
so
crazy.
It's just so many games, and they can mandate you 4 hours after 2 hours after your shift.
Yeah.
So it's crazy.
And I don't even want to make this video too long, but I'm a nurse by trade, and when I tell you like. Some people get into nursing, and I'm not saying it's a bad business. There's so many different opportunities you can get into as a nurse. But I've heard somebody say before, even before I got my nursing degree, they was like, nurses don't make enough money. I believe this because I'm somebody that I think about things in a way that a lot of people don't think about things. So when I see like 6 figures, I don't necessarily, it's not a bad amount of money, but I don't necessarily see that as being like something that, oh my gosh, like, you know, I never looked at 6 figures like it was so much money. So when I looked at how much nurses were getting paid, I wasn't like, oh, I'm about to be rich. But either way, the money, when I worked as a nurse, that was one of the most stressful jobs ever. And I haven't had that many jobs. I only had 1 part-time job and 2 full-time jobs. But that was the most stressful job. And the amount of money that they were paying you, it just was not a lot. So even people who, it changed our lives, because even careers that you look to, like for people who are successful, like, you know, oh, you're a nurse, that's so good. That's what people always would tell me. Oh, you in nursing school? Oh, you're a nurse, that's so good. It is really good. But what's even better is having options. And that's one thing, I'm telling you, we can go on and on about how it changed our lives, but to have the options, I obviously quit that job. It was stressful. They was trying to pay me pennies on the dollar. I mean, it wasn't pennies on the dollar, you know, respectfully. I know it might be a good amount to some people, but the amount of money that they wanted to pay for the amount of work that we had to do, I'm trying to get my hand about the video to show you, like, if you a nurse or you know anybody who's a nurse, you already know, like, they got you running around like crazy. Like, you earn every red cent that you get, and you're not going to get no more money than you work for. You're not going to get no more money. So just the flexibility of having something like real estate, long-term real estate that can get you more money with less effort. You need things. Any things, and not just real estate. If you can find other businesses, this is the main business that we have found that could get us money, more money with less effort. If you can find any business that do this, I encourage you to check that business out, even if it's not this business that we're telling you about. Those are game changers, because what you will never have is more than 24 hours in a day. And one thing you don't want to be doing is getting an extra job, getting 2 and 3 jobs just to maintain the bills. Things are going up. And the prices are going to continue to rise. You can't be having 4 jobs. You don't have enough time in a day to have 4 jobs. And guess what? You still have other jobs. You might be a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a mother, a father. You don't want to be working yourself into an early grave just to get an extra dollar. You need to look into passive income businesses. We encourage you to look into a business like this one that we're telling you about. We encourage you to join our program if that's something that you're interested in, where we teach people how to get into the business at a good rate, how to find good quality tenants, which is one of the most important things. If it's not this business, look into another business that will get you passive income, because I'm telling you, even if you're not passionate about the business, it don't matter, because it doesn't take extra effort in your day to earn that extra money. And that's something that's so special. I want everybody to be able to experience this. so much, y'all. Like, you don't understand. We tell our family, our friends, they see the life we live. They always talk about some, oh man, y'all going somewhere again. Y'all doing this again. Of course, I know y'all ain't working. I know y'all, but everybody doesn't have the wherewithal to be like, okay, I want to do that, because they're so used to doing the same things. They're used to struggling. Some people get caught in that act of struggling that they don't know how to not struggle, and they don't feel comfortable not struggling. So we just want to show people who know that there's another way, and who want to find that other way the same way we did. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I know I went off on a rant, but I'm just saying it's so special, because it's not something that, like, the way I'm talking, the way we talking, you might think that we're passionate about it. We're not super passionate about real estate. Like, we're not, oh yeah, going to get another house, y'all. Like, it's cool, it's exciting, because we know what it can do for us. That's what we're passionate about, and what it can do for other people. So that's where that passion comes from, because we didn't notice when we got started, but when we started to see what it does, that is when it, like, we like, oh yeah, this about to change our lives, and it has been ever since. So man, I'm telling you, complete 360 from.
And I'm so grateful for real estate too. Not even just for me, what it's did for us, but I'm so grateful it allowed you to be able to stay home with, you know, you had a Jira, you was able to enjoy your pregnancy. I remember you telling me about the lady that worked at the car plant, and she wasn't even able to really had that time, you know. And I'll let you talk about that, but I just grateful that you were able to stay home and nurse the baby, our baby, how you wanted to. You didn't have to, all right, I got to get back in there. You know, I would have did everything in my power to make sure that you didn't have to, but I'm glad that we had something else, because if something happened to me, or if I got hurt, or got hurt working or something like that, we still had something. You know, we have something, and we have options, and you didn't have to do that either way. So, you know, you had the option to stay home with the baby. You didn't have to go out there. I was able to stay home with you, help out with the baby. So I'm just grateful for that. And I know you was telling me about that lady. So
yeah, like, it's just a quick story. Like, I remember like it was yesterday. It wasn't even a lady that I knew well, but it was a lady who worked at the same plant that we talked about. We had something at work. We have people that worked at the plant, and they were temps. So when it came to temps could kind of get fired, like, for no reason much at all. They still had the union, but they didn't have to have much of a reason to be able to get fired. So this lady, she had a baby, and she came back to work 2 weeks later. Now, by state law, you are able to get a minimum of 4 weeks of leave, you know, to bond with your baby, to be with your baby. You know, is expected, especially if you're breastfeeding, you know, which a lot of mothers are. You get that time, but she came back in 2 weeks. Not even enough time for your body to fully heal, because she didn't want to get fired from the job. You know what I'm saying? She didn't want to risk getting fired, because they couldn't tell her that, hey, we letting you go because you stayed in maternity leave a little bit too long. But you know, that can happen, as that did happen to a couple people. They lost their spot because they was out a little bit too long, even though you actually should have that amount of time. And then another quick story about a man. He was in another an actual group that I was in. He was actually saving up so he could be off for 2 weeks to be with his baby. Like, him and his wife, I guess they didn't have paid paternity leave, so maybe he was like just starting a job. I don't know the whole story, but one of his goals, we did like different Q goals. So his like Q1 or Q2 goal, Q1 or Q2 goal, was to save up enough money to be off for 2 weeks with his baby. And it was people in the program that was like, yeah, you know, 2 weeks, you gonna see that's not really a lot of time at all. And so somebody encouraged him to make his goal to at least 1 month. But you know, just stuff like that, like, to have that in your back pocket, y'all, like we said, even if you don't have the desire to quit a job, like, it just was life changing just to have those options where you could be like, yo, I don't like this job, I'm going to another job. Because I was optimistic when it came to nursing. Now, I wasn't going to be working for nobody for 30-40 years and then retiring, but I was optimistic, like, okay, maybe this will be cool. It wasn't cool, and I was able to get out of there as soon as I saw that it wasn't going to be good for me. And it wasn't like the whole business. I still am a nurse by trade. I don't work as a nurse because I'm, you know, here we still have our baby here, so I don't have to work as a nurse, and I like that option. I like to be able to be like, okay, I do have a nursing degree, and I can go out and I can, you know, work. I do contracts as a self-employed nurse. I can do that, or I can just choose the, you know, go on this 3-month vacation now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have that option. So y'all, options and freedom is just a game changer.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So that's all we got in this video. So we appreciate y'all. We'll see you on the next video.
Yep. All right, y'all.
Peace.